All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Shalom, shalom, Sister Deborah, prophetess in the wilderness. And you know what? That's all right with me. Coming again on this Deborah platform with another message. And I will say that this is a lovely early morning in which the Most High, Ahia has made. And I, Sister Deborah, shall and I will rest therein. I'm coming with a how would I say, a powerful message, but it is a message that's going to close a lot of doors. And being so, it's going to close a lot of doors. I am titling this message, Slamming the Door on Polygamy. I'm titling this message, Slamming the Door on Polygamy. First, I want to start off by saying, I, Sister Deborah, is a prophetess in the wilderness, okay? In that wilderness is where I attend my classes. I attend lessons from the Ruach HaKodesh. I attend seminars. I attend studies. I attend many things in this wilderness and have for some time now. The Spirit of the Most High Ahia has been dealing with me since I was 4 years old, okay? And I look back over my life. I mean, like over my life, and I can see even then how it was important that he teach me in the way and in the order in which he has taught me. And I just thank him for that because it came up out of the way man has deceived man. Okay. So therefore I could go anywhere throughout my life and sit amongst those who say that they represent my creator, the Father, and speak not his word that proceed not just out of his mouth, but words that he has inspired. Okay. That one that can hear it. Okay. A lot of us think this thing is a flesh on flesh. We speak like we have the Spirit, but we don't. You can tell. If it would so, it would fool the very elect. I want to give you something, and I'm going to start off here before I jump in. In Matthew's chapter 24, verse 24. In Matthew's chapter 24, verse 24. For there shall arise false Christs with an S, and false prophets with an S, and shall show great signs and wonders, inasmuch that if, hallelujah, praise the mighty Yah, in so much that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. I want to tell you all out there, this is actually saying in Matthew 24 and 24, that the elect of the Most High Ahia cannot be deceived. Okay? So I, Sister Deborah, without a doubt, without second thinking, second feeling, second assuming, I know that I know who I am in my Father's bosom. Okay, so I want to read that again in Matthew 24 and 24. For there shall arise false Christs, false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if, hallelujah, it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. And being an elect, I am one that was, like I say, chosen as a little girl to begin to be taught then. See, I wasn't taught now. I was taught then. Okay. So I thank him for bringing to me so much information that I can sit and get and behold and hear many voices in the land, and I can dissect it, and I can also toss it in the trash. Okay? So we're going to go to another verse in Matthew 24. But this one is Matthew 24 and 31. And it reads, and if he shall sin, and this is Yeshua speaking. This is written in the red. This is speaking, Yeshua speaking these things. If it were possible, the very elect can actually be deceived. But if it was possible, being so, Yeshua knows that the creation of YAHWEH's elect is to not be fooled by those who are portraying roles as high as saying that they are Christ, saying that they are prophets, and anything that lines up under it. Apostles, Maureen, seals, watchmen, pastors. If it was so, the true elects would be deceived by a deceiver. But it ain't so, said Yeshua. And that's what he's saying. And as he went on in Matthew 24 and 31, he says, and he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elects. See, a lot of people thinking that YAHWEH is going to gather all of a certain people or any and all. No, he's not. He's not going to gather you together. I know many have told you that. He has his elect. Okay. And it says here in Matthew 24 and 31, I know they told you it's about the Hebrew Israelites. Y'all better get a grip. Yeshua is saying that he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elects from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. So I thank the Father for that, because that's so assurance to me that he's not leaving his elects down here to wobble in what is going to actually take place. Okay. So here we get into Matthew chapter 6 and verse 22. In Matthew chapter 6, it says, the light of the body is the eye. The eye is not the eyes. When it says eyes, it's speaking of the flesh eyes, the eyes you have in your flesh. But when it says eye, it's speaking of a spiritual eye. Now listen to this. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 22, the light of the body is the eye. Notice it says step 1. If therefore thy eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. See, the eye, the spiritual eye, gives you the eye to see behind and through the flesh. You see, it gives you a spiritual sight. So when Sister Deborah is telling you about this light, so you can see, how many times have I said that? Probably a million. I'm exaggerating when I say a million, but I'm just joking. I've said that over and over and over. The light is for you to see, to be able to walk in all this darkness, that you may see straight through the darkness and see within the darkness, see around the dark, in the back of the darkness, in front of the darkness. Why? Because this eye is very powerful. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 22, it says, the light of the body is the eye. It's speaking of the spiritual eye. Okay. If therefore thy eye be single, okay, thy whole body shall be full of light. that goes back to what Sister Deborah have always said. In this light that the Father has given you to see, you walk therein. You walk there in that light, and you shall never stumble. Okay? Now, I like you to understand that eye is a spiritual eye. That means that when people don't shut people down, they're speaking darkness, that's conducting and deceiving in the midst of darkness. And if you don't speak out and you are elect, then you got to understand you're not the elect that you think you are. You are the elect of Satan and not the elect chosen by Yah. Okay? Because you don't stand on what is you're seeing. Only if you're seeing, only if you have that eye that gives you light to see and allow your whole body to walk therein, the light, that you may see darkness for what it is. Okay? So I thank the Father for that eye because, like I said, I've had it since I was 4 years old. And I can remember that far back. Now, when you get to Mark, chapter 13 of Mark, in chapter 13 of Mark and verse 22, it reads, "For the false Christ and the false prophets shall rise and shall show signs and wonders to seduce," watch this here, "if it was possible, even the elect." Going back, letting you know, a highest elect is not set up from the flow up to be deceived. Now, if I'm telling you I'm not the one to be deceived by those that deceive you. Okay? I can't be deceived. I was molded and shaped in my mother's womb, and I was predestined from the heaven to be what he called me to be on the earth. I am one chosen as the elect. Okay? So it's not, if it were possible, the false teachers, the false pastors, the false leaders, the false Christs, and the false prophets shall and will deceive me. But the Father letting you know, mine that I have anointed and appointed cannot be deceived. They can see with the eye in Matthew chapter 6, verse 22, that has light to see into darkness. Okay, now we get to Romans chapter 8, verse 33. In Romans chapter 8, verse 33, it reads, "Who shall lay anything to the charge of a highest elect? It is Yah that justify." See, people don't understand. You can't come after Sister Deborah. You can't lay nothing against Sister Deborah. I am who I am. Say that I am. Hallelujah. Let me cut into that again. I am who a higher say that I am. Okay? So I'm not who you say that I am, but who I am say that I am. Praise the mighty Yah. So in Romans chapter 8 and verse 33, it reads, "Who shall lay anything to the charge of Yah's elects?" Yah's elects. It is Yah that justify. Okay, so that is enough. I got one more. When you go to, let's go to Revelation. I want to cut into this so you can get a grip. Now we're going all the way to the end because I got to take you there. Because many people, they are more so taught by the mouth. And especially when I say a loud mouth, that's an ugly mouth man. A man that got a loud, big mouth, and you can hear that loudness being portrayed to deceive many. Okay? And that's many of them out there That's why you can hear them on the corners, loud it, mouth it. You can hear them on YouTube, loud mouth it. What I received yesterday, someone sent me an email and said, I need you to hear what this individual said and doing. And I'm like, I done heard this nutcase many times. I say, now, what can it say now? Same thing the individual said in the email. Just listen to what is being said. So when I got on there, I listened and I thought, Father, what should I or can I bring forth? He said, slamming the door on polygamy. And he said, when you slam that door, don't open it up again. Let them play and wobble behind that door. Let them wobble and play behind that door which has been slammed on polygamy. Because he's given me enough information to put right in front of the door and then slam the door and let it rest therein. Okay. Now, in Revelation chapter 10 and verse 7, Revelation chapter 10. Now, here we are at the end now, y'all. And I'm going to show you where the elects are being used in this day and time for the eye and the light of the Most High or higher. Okay. Verse 4, Revelation chapter 10, verse 4. But in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of Yah should be finished. In the last 2 years, I've been telling you all that the Father said it's finished. The mystery, everything is finished. Everything has been dispersed since the beginning of time to those who he has assigned, appointed, and anointed. Okay, listen to what he says. Revelation chapter 10, verse 7. But in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, and this is the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin, he's getting ready to sound the trumpet. Watch this here. The mystery of Ahia should be finished. You see, so the mystery of Ahia, it should be finished when that trumpet is blown. The mystery is finished, y'all. Ahia said he's finished. That means while we're thinking we're doing something on the earth, you know, no, baby. You just walking his word out. Okay, that's it. You're not walking your way, your will, your feelings, your emotions, your personal opinion, your personal understanding. You're walking the will of the Father out, whether it be in the righteous will or the unrighteous will. All of it works for his will. And that's another thing that caused many men and women to be bent up and bent down. They don't know the difference. Okay. Now, listen to what it says. The mystery of Yah should be finished when that seventh trumpet blows. Now watch this here. He has declared to his servants, the prophets. See, the mystery is given to us as prophets to run on with this in this last wicked and evil days. We are the ones he has elected for a time as this. So no, we can't be deceived. We are the elect. We can't be deceived. Only you can be deceived. We can't, not the elects. And I know everybody and their mama and their children, their grandparents will say they are elect. They are the one. But if you just sit back and tarry for the Ruach, I don't know if even the Ruach is willing at this day and time to indulge himself in people. Because if he says to me it's finished, that means who he is already in them. They got to bring him out. They got to activate him themselves. And don't think if you are elect, you're going to be activated. You are. It's just that this time that you're in is a time like no other. And it's going to be hard for you. So I say unto you, it's time to really, I told you last year, the end of last year too, to search yourself and see really where you stand in this mission of the Father. Okay. So I wanted to give you Revelation chapter 10 because there's a very, what I call a power punch in that. It's a power punch. It's letting you know the seventh trumpet, the seven angels is getting ready to blow. He most likely he already, but I'm just still saying. And Ahia says, here is saying that Ahia's mystery is finished. Praise the Most High. Ahia. I thank him for that because I myself knew that, but couldn't really explain to people in details to the point where they would get it. He said, this ain't the time that they gonna get. This is the time they not gonna get. So only my elect shall receive and embrace. Others, they're gonna be lost as a loony bird. Even this lesson, slamming the door on polygamy, people gonna be lost as lost can be, even though I'm gonna give them the verses, I'm gonna give them the spirit and truth of the whole matter. I'm gonna give them an example. And if you're lost, you just lost. You just meant to be lost. Okay. So Sister Deborah finna go into her study. And I like to really kind of move fast because I got a lot of things that the Father want me to bring forth. I want to first start off with, I'm not going to let that, we're going to come from Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. We're going to start off with Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. Mm-hmm. And as I'm speaking, I'm going to use my where is it at? My board here to try to help out. Okay. And this is about shutting the door, slamming the door on polygamy. And with this being said, I want you to understand it's that time. Slam that door hard. That means don't entertain it. Don't be partake in it. Don't agree with it. Don't settle for it. Don't love on it. Don't think it. Don't feel it. Don't desire it. Okay. It is the desire of the flesh of man. Okay. Now in the book of Genesis, I want you to first understand in Genesis, in the chapter, if like this is how the Father taught me as a young girl. He said, Deborah, when you open up the book, okay, you have to be able to understand. I'm not Genesis. I'm not the verses as 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll find me in the power of what is spoken. Okay, you'll find me there. And when you study, the Ruach HaKodesh would meet you there. And it would expound and teach you all things from that level. So don't think that a paperback book that man has smeared from left to right to left is my word. I have been before the foundation of the world. I was, and I am. So therefore, I can't be a paperback book if the word is who I am. Okay. It was in the beginning before you had your paperback book. And it's going to always be when the paperback book has ceased. The word is still who Ahia is. So that's why he wants us to tarry and wait for him to come in us so he can be the teacher. But we said to him, no, our forefathers, after the forefathers that you had chosen as your seed, the other forefathers have taught us that it's about what they have said, what they think, what they feel, and what they have orchestrated for us. And then many others, nation has been able to smear many things. But the Father say, hold up, Deborah, tell them. That's the whole idea for the 12 to tarry. That's why they tarried, even though it was more than 12 in that upper room. That's why they were tarrying. They was waiting for something. They could have took what we take today. They was living in that time. They couldn't take what we took today and what we believe and how we are believing it. They had to wait for the true teacher, which is the Ruach HaKodesh. Well, in this day and time, nobody wants to tarry for the true teacher because they want the idol God. They want the idol example. They want the idol mouth. They want the idol wisdom. They want the idol knowledge. They want the idol understanding. They want the idol personal opinions. They want the idol feelings. They want the idol emotions, because their flesh, that's the only way their flesh is willing to feel that they have something so awesome, and don't even realize you don't have anything but the flesh of a man. That's it. Tarrying for the Ruach HaKodesh is when you sit and wait on that which you are believing that you're going to receive within you. And with this Ruach HaKodesh, he's going to be all that and some. He's going to teach you even how to tell a man and a woman to stand down. You need to repent. You need to stop conducting yourself in that manner. That is not of Yah. See, spirit and truth is a highest Ruach HaKodesh. It teaches you spirit and truth. Spirit and truth is something man cannot teach you out of this book. Spirit and truth stand taller than this book can ever reach. This book cannot come up on spirit and truth, because spirit and truth is the teaching of the Ruach HaKodesh. It is what taught me in the wilderness and continue to teach me. And I continue to yearn and thirst for more and more and more. And he continued to give me more and more and more. Why? It's because I have received him as a teacher of all things. I have received him as being my comforter, the one that revealed things and teach me all things, show me things to come. I have trust in this one because he has been so great in me. How can I dare deny what liveth in me? What has orchestrated me to be chosen before the foundation of the world, predestined and ordained. How dare I get down here and let a man be my God? And I worship him like he's an idol. He's not worship him like he's an idol. I treat him like he's a God, but he's an idol. And it's become to the point where everybody is idol worshiping. But this time, it used to be in time past where they would do stones and build wooden animals out of wood and stone, and they worship them. But the idol that's on the earth in the last 400 years has been man. Has been man. But you notice David, Moses, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they never idoled men. They idol a relationship with a higher one-on-one. They were branded for a highest namesake. And what is a highest namesake? Faith, fear, righteous, and belief. That's a brand. You know how you brand a cow? Well, that is what a highest brand. That's his brand. When he brand one before they get here in the heavens, their name is jotted in the Lamb Book of Life. Before they get here, they are already branded. But what happens when they get here? They on the land where Satan has deceived the whole world, and they fall into sin. But does that keep them from being the seed that Ahiah sent down? No, they remain the seed. They keep the journey. They crush the serpent's head and pass the baton to the next one. And they go down, down, down till we reach the Messiah. Okay. So the serpent, his head should be hanging off around about now. Okay? But he still has the strength because he knew that in these end days that many would go back to the ways of Noah and live the wickedness of Genesis, the beginning. Isn't that deep? You know how the Father has prophesied, has allowed many to speak, especially the prophets, to prophesy on the fact that the days in the last days, it's going to be like the days of Genesis. Okay? The book of Genesis, the days of Noah, the days of Lot. And you know what other days? I like when Yeshua came on the scene and he took them all the way back to the what? The days of the beginning. Praise the mighty Yah. I like how Yeshua did that because he took them all the way back to the beginning and let them know, wait a minute, from the beginning, let's go there. See, these people today don't want to go there because they like the mouths of their idol God. And because they have accepted the loud mouths of the idol God, Ahia didn't say. He said, Deborah, don't. I'm not coming. And the Father know. He knows because I said, but Father, you told me, you showed me. He said, yeah, I know. I've given it to you. I know to whom I have ushered it out to. You can break it down. You can break it up. Those that are for the darkness going to walk continually in the darkness. And those that are of the light going to walk there in the light. And there's light is for a purpose and there's darkness for the purpose. And here today, it have said it in the beginning of this book all the way to the end, and not a man alive can grip spirit and truth of the whole matter of light and darkness. And if they could grip it, they could see there's a difference between flesh and there's a difference between spirit. Spirit don't sin. Flesh does. Where do all the flesh hold on to? The sin. Flesh is the one that conduct the sin. Who do he say that is our worstest enemy? Our own flesh. How can that be, Father, Yah? You mean Satan and his demon is not my worstest enemy? No, Deborah, tell them. Your own worstest enemy. Your own worstest enemy. Your own worstest enemy is your flesh. You know why? And that's sad because you hear throughout churches and everywhere around the world, oh, the devil made me do this, the demons and the devil and Satan, the serpent and all. But the Father want me to tell you, you all been lying since lying exists. Your worstest enemy is your flesh because your flesh want to make wrong right and right wrong. Your flesh want its desire, its pleasure, its passion, its love. It wants what it wants. And one thing your flesh do not want. And that's the spirit of the Most High Ahia. That's what makes your flesh your worstest enemy. Because it wants all the pleasures within its flesh. To the point it wants to make the things that it desire in its flesh. They want to make it right. And say everybody else is wrong. Now, this is why Sister Deborah is slamming the door on polygamy. I'm coming, not, what I'm gonna tell you where I'm coming from. I'm not coming from the basement door. Sister Deborah is not coming from the basement window. Sister Deborah is not coming from the back door or the side of the house window. Sister Deborah's coming straight through that door. I'm coming through the front door on you. And I'm going to slam the door on polygamy. One thing people don't understand, that either you walk in spirit or you walk in flesh. Total big difference. And that's why many of our men can't beat porno, lust, the desire of passion in their flesh, of want. That's why a lot of men and women can't beat alcohol, drugs, child molestation. It's because these are things that's in our flesh, you guys, that makes us wicked and wicked and wickeder. And we want to make it look pretty to those that we have destroyed. Why? Because our worstest enemy is ourselves, our own flesh. And if we are enemies to our own flesh, do you think that we give the rat behind how we can be enemies to a multitude of men and women? They don't. Somebody who do not and have not and refuse to recognize that you are your own worst enemy. Why? Because your flesh fight against the main power that would rest in the heavens and on the earth. Your flesh fight against. So anytime someone would give you the idea that the flesh, the things of the flesh, has been justified, clarified, and identified by the Most High or higher spirit to be okay, they have broken your back in more than one place. You will never straighten up. You are so crooked. Your back is so bent so many times in so many places, you will never straighten up. Because anytime, hear me out. Anytime the flesh of an individual can tell you the desires of your flesh override and has the power over that which is spirit, and that it does not teach you that your flesh is your worstest enemy. So the things in which you trap within your flesh to believe that it is righteous, or it's okay, it's just trying to clarify, identify, and make righteous out of something that's in your nasty flesh, then you have bent, crooked, in your back, the back of many men and women, and they will never straighten up right. Because Ahia is not coming here for that. He's not coming here for those who have found pleasure here on the earth, who have felt that they can tame the earth. They can tame women. They're not taming their seeds. Why? Because they're not doing right by. Ahia putting them jewels, sperms, so they can bring forth. And what the men didn't understand, those children you brought forth, was what Ahia wanted to come forth on the earth. And you looked at those children and you took your ways that move your flesh, because your flesh is your worstest enemy, and you turned all those seeds away because of your emotions, your feelings, your personal opinion, and hearing a fleshly man that walks in darkness lead and guide you the wrong way. Because see, no one ever really, and even to today, understood where he says, seek ye the kingdom first. See, the kingdom is something to seek, y'all. You come into a woman that's 62 years old, and guess what? Been dealing with the spirit of Yah since I was 4. I can go back to 4. I might can go a little bit before 4, but I'm going to just stick with 4. Because I remember a time I was really sick. I remember every word that doctor said. And my mother can't even remember it. Or I remember it just as clear as today. I can remember it. I had lost weight and everything, but I can remember it. But going back to this here, I want you all to understand. This message is about slamming the door on polygamy, and we're going to slam that door hard. And the reason why we're going to slam it hard is because this is the last message Sister Deborah going to bring out. I just want my YouTubers that have joined subscribe to me, to take heed to this message and hold it dear to your heart. Please do not get out here and participate even in the thought of anything righteous in this polygamy lifestyle. This is nothing to do with the side of the spirit. This is all flesh. If the Father says your flesh is your worst enemy, and you feel that you're going to teach men and women that the pleasures of flesh is more important than the things which are spirit, then therefore the men would run for those that teaches that their flesh can has its desire, its pleasures. YAHWEH never intend for us to be in captivity with the mindset that we're going to build a kingdom here on the earth. First of all, he said, build your treasures where? In the heavens, where no one can, it won't rust and no one can rob you. Oh no, they don't believe in that, because their flesh is their worst enemy, and their flesh teach others, let's build our kingdom here, that we can speak to others to brag and say, we got this, we got, baby, you ain't got nothing. You just went up against, you buckled up against spirit and truth. That's just all there is to it. A lot of people don't even grip it that way. And you're going to hear it when he say it's going to be like the days of Lot. In the end days, they're going to be planning, building. He knows what he's saying. I love him. I love the Most High, y'all. I love my Father, YAHWEH, Father, YAHWEH, YAHWEH, YAHWEH. I love him because he just so swift and so gentle, and so he's like a lightning when he give me information. And I'll be like, wait a minute now. Because you have to do that, because he almost like zapped you to remember what he had taught you already. And you be like, wait a minute. Didn't you tell me that before? Yes, I did. I just want to make sure you're on guard. And I thank him for that. And that's why he tells me over and over, stay in your lane. Because your lane is spiritual. It is spiritual. It's a spiritual lane. You see? And I like him saying that to me. I feel good. I feel important to him when he said that to me. Because I know that the lane in which I must stay in is the lane that he had orchestrated for me to run in before the foundation of the world. Praise the mighty Yah. Let's get into this lesson. Okay, the Father wants me to come from Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. In Genesis chapter 2, first of all, I want you to understand, the Father had came to me many years ago, and he said, if man does not, when I say man, I'm talking about man and woman, does not take on the beginning, then they can't take on the end and anything in between. See, you all might not know what that means, but going back to Revelation chapter 10, verse 7, he's given the mystery to his prophets. I'm not a dead prophet. I'm a living one. So I'm here to share with you some of the mystery even you don't know. But it ain't going to be for you that is sitting and resting in darkness. It is for he that is in the light, that's seeking the narrow gate, because it's a place that you got to find. And how do you find it? When you hear and see the light will lead you. And it's through your eyes. It's where the light rests and show you the way. Okay? Not through the loud mouth of a man, nor the overlearned mouth of a woman, but through the light of the Spirit of Yah that has ushered you, the eye, that it may be the light for your whole body to walk in the midst of this world that is darkness, and you may find your way. Even your footsteps you shall see in which way is the narrow gate. 99.3 is walking in the broad gate and very content. I am too right now, content that they are content. Because the Father say, it's finished, Deborah. That means who's going in the narrow gate is going in the narrow. Those that's going in the broad, Deborah, is going in the broad. It ain't for you to tell this group you going here and this group you going here. It's already in them. And they walking directly into which gate that was orchestrated for them before. the foundation of the world. And would you believe 99 point trillion thinking they walking through the narrow gate and in the way to the narrow gate. 99 point trillion think that they walking straight into the narrow gate, and they're walking in the way of the broad and can't discern it because they are darkness and they cannot see which gate is which, because their life is full of darkness, wickedness, perpetual hate, desire for the flesh, pleasure for the flesh. If he said our flesh is our worstest enemy, let's shut that door. Let's slam that door on polygamy. Because if your flesh is your worstest enemy, why is it your flesh has its pleasure and its desire it wants and its righteous ways on the earth and want to call it and make it in the eyes of men to be just, righteous, upright? No. That which a man liveth in his flesh is his flesh. But that which is of the spirit is really of the spirit. There's two separate ones, you guys. Many that's walking in their flesh really believe they're walking in the narrow gate, toward the narrow gate. No, they're not. That's why he made sure that the broad gate was real broad and said himself, many shall go therein. Let's go. In Genesis, we're gonna slam the door on polygamy. And the way Sister Deborah is gonna slam the door on polygamy, I'm gonna slam the door on polygamy in the spirit realm. I'm gonna slam the door on polygamy on the righteous will of the Father, the perfect will of the Father. I'm going to slam the door on polygamy in the light. I'm going to slam the door on polygamy, and I'm going to make it what it is. It is not just. It is not the will of the Father. It's not the desire of the Father. It's not the perfect will of the Father, nor is the righteous will. How do one know where polygamy can stand in this day or in the days past? First of all, in this day, it can't stand, period, because they're in the land of their captivity. And if you read Deuteronomy 28, it tells you the end game. And if you knew what the end game is, you'll find out that you've been lied to about being able to be kings, leaders, and rulers. You've been lied to about being able to have a woman submissive to you. You've been lied to when you want to build and gain and have and be able to look down and say, I told you, you didn't listen, you didn't listen. The Father want to show you, you didn't listen. You didn't listen to the righteous word of the Most High or higher that proceed out of his mouth. You took out scriptures that proceed out of the mouth of a flesh of a man, and you made it be the flesh of your heart. That's an idol god. Anytime you can go into the biblical Bible and take out the words that proceed out of a man's mouth, you are flesh. Y'all didn't know that, did you? Yes. And you already, if you are your worstest enemy, why would you want more wives? Because each one of them have an enemy already themselves. Each one of your wives has an enemy within themselves. And it's their worstest enemy, said the Bible. So if we are our own worstest enemy, you got 3 other enemies, along with you being your own worstest enemy. What would it gain you to have you being your own worstest enemy? Your wife, she got her own self, which is an enemy. You all become one. Now you got a large enemy within yourselves as wife, husband and wife. And then you're going to usher others who has their own worst enemies themselves into you, into your surroundings, into your environment. That's one sign right there telling y'all polygamy is not of Yah. It is of the flesh of man. Satan then snuck in through the basement door, the basement window, and the back door. And just because he have gotten in and made himself comfortable into the house does not mean it is righteous. It is of Yah. It is okay. No. David, Solomon, Abraham, Moses, Jacob, all of them. They were sinless men that had sin up and down and all around. But the Father wanted us to see what he was doing in them and through them. We didn't want to see that. We wanted to see what were they like in their flesh so we can mimic it. And these men today looked upon them in their flesh, and desire what they what they picked up and become. They desire David's flesh. They desire Solomon's flesh. They desire Jacob's flesh. They desire Abraham's flesh. They desire the flesh of man and never desire the will of Yah that was portrayed in their lives. You see how your own flesh is your worstest enemy. The Father was saying to me last night, because I did this video and then he had me to come back and do it again today and bring that one down. And I thank him for it because it feels even better today because he gave me some more insights. But just to think that polygamy has been reached in a book, poured out of the book, the example of the flesh of a man, and mimic it in their flesh. Sister Deborah, before she ends, she gonna slam the door on polygamy. And I'm coming through spirit and truth of it all. Praise the mighty Yah. So, what they did is they took this book and they went to and fro, like Satan did in the midst of the Father and when he was with the sons of Yah, which the world has lied. Prophets, prophetess, teachers, all of them have lied and called the sons of Yah fallen angels. You're sick, and you're sick. Okay? I don't care what other books come in tune with you. You messed up from the floor up when you're grabbing books to identify spirit and truth. Oh, no. He said, tarry until I come. And when I come, you notice the disciples, they didn't have nothing Yeshua said until what? Till the Ruach HaKodesh came. The day of Pentecost in Acts. So what makes you think that you're going to grab a book and be able to master the desires of your flesh? Do you really think this book was created to justify, to clarify, and identify the wickedness in your flesh? Guess what this book do? It tells you straight up from the floor, your worstest enemy is your flesh. Your own flesh. Not somebody on your left and your right. Not your mother, not your father. Not your brothering, not your sistering. But you yourself need to look in the mirror and say, I'm one ugly person. Because I am my worstest enemy. So what they did, they took this book, you guys. They went in here and they master the flesh of man. They said, David, come on over here. What's this thing about polygamy? Oh, yeah, I did it. And nothing good came out of it. Look how my household was messed up from the floor. Oh, what? But you had 7 wives. You had all them wives, though. Just the ideal of all them wives. If David can come back to tell you the story, he would. But the Father said, I send my prophets with the mystery. And when they come, they will come in spirit and in truth. Yeshua said the time shall come and the time is now when the true worshipers shall come in spirit and in truth. So you can make me a lie 24/24. The conscious of guilt and conviction after this message shall weigh heavy on thee. And that's all I can say about it. It's not going to go anywhere. It's going to live thereforth in thee. It's going to be in the back of your mind. It's going to be in your ear. It's going to be in your heart. You ain't going to be able to do away with it. Nope. You're not going to be able to pay somebody to try to combat what Sister Deborah say, because they can't pay. You can't pay nobody with spirit and truth. See, this book cannot outweigh spirit and truth, you guys. And anybody that say that it can, that's because they flesh. They believe their spirit is clean. They believe their flesh is clean in their own eyes. All is righteous in their own eyes. And everything else is unrighteous and unjust. They never realize why he said, get your flesh under the subjection. That's the first thing you were supposed to do. Get your own nasty flesh, your own nasty, stanky, wicked flesh under the subjection to the spirit that rests within you, so that the Father can abide in your spirit and he can become one and teach you from that angle. But no, they don't want that. They wanted the ugly mouth of a man, ugly mouth of women to teach and lead and guide them. They can't teach you. They can't guide you. The 12 disciples couldn't tell nobody nothing. Yeshua told them, don't open your mouth. You don't know nothing. Just tarry until, hallelujah, the Russian warring wind came in and it identified itself. 99 trillion ain't even had that experience, nor do they have a experience with the Ruach every day, throughout the day. Sister Deborah is a living witness. I'm not a dead prophet. I'm a living one that tells you I appreciate the wilderness, because it is a place where he show up and show out in me, showing me things to come, revealing things to me, showing me what is in the front of me and in the back of me and every side. So what? I can stay in my lane and rest therein and know that I'm running into the victory sign, the finish line. So people, what they did is they took this book, y'all. They went all up in this book. They went all up in it from the beginning to the end. They called themselves mastering it. And then they say, well, wait a minute, some other books lost too that was taken out. Oh, let's get those too. And the same one that has smeared this one also have others all around it. But what comes to override this is just like Yeshua telling the disciples, hold up, you ain't got nothing. Tarry until the Holy Spirit comes so that it can teach you all things. They didn't wait for the Holy Spirit. They went into this word. They went into this book here. Okay. The words out of this book. And they master it to what the desires of their flesh. How did they master it? They took the words that proceed out of the mouth of man and they applied it to their bosom. And they want to live by it, walk by it, talk by it, deceive many by it. Every word that proceed out of the mouth of man, they chose and never realized that the word that proceed out of the mouth of Yah can be recognized in this book through the Ruach HaKodesh. A person that has that eye to see, they have the light to read this book and see the light in it of righteousness. But they also see a large number of darkness. Because why? They have the eye to see. And their whole body have the light they're in. Those who have that eye. He said, Deborah, they say they see, they can't see. They say they hear, they can't hear. This is a known fact even to today. I'm not a dead prophet, I'm a living one. And that's why I'm about to slam the door on this polygamy. They took the words out of here that had to do with the flesh of men. Let me say that again. They took the words out of here that detached to the flesh of men. And they told you that, okay, the only thing that we're going to do like unto David is when they had more wives. More wives. So that we can fulfill the passion, the lust, and the desire, and the pleasure, and the want that we desire. And we're going to make it righteous. We're going to make it just. We're going to clarify it. We're going to identify it because it's in this book. They took these words that proceed out of the mouth of man, and they made it in the flesh of man as living word. And it's not living word. It's dead word to the flesh. They never took out, wait a minute, Solomon was building the temple of the Father, made a city and everything, getting every red thing prepared for the Most High, higher. You don't see a man alive trying to do that. Not one. Solomon was doing the work of Yah. Solomon wasn't just talking to this group over here in the city and this group. No, Solomon was talking to all of them. David, the whole house of Israel and the tribe of Judah. He was fighting for the whole group, the whole house of Israel. David wasn't fighting for this group and this group. David was fighting for all of the house of Israel and the tribe of Judah. What happened to these men today? They ain't fighting for nothing. They ain't building on nothing. They ain't putting their treasures in the heavens that which are on the earth, putting up treasures in the heavens. They weren't doing that. David was. Look at Psalms. Solomon was. Look at Solomon, the Songs of Solomon. They were building up their spiritual gifts in the heavens, even in the things that they were saying. Were they sinful? Yes. Man, today and yesterday went into this book, took all out the things they did in their flesh and mimic it. Only the things that allowed them to have the wives. Why didn't they mimic David fighting wars? That would be today standing on equal rights, fighting for righteousness, fighting for Yah's word to be fulfilled, fighting against those who say that anything against the Creator. This is David. David constantly had a relationship with the Most High Yah, just like Sister Deborah say she do. When I tell y'all I talk to him every day, he talk to me. Let me just cut that out right now. He has to do something for me every day. Same way with David. That's why he could build psalms. That's why Solomon can start to sing, but he was singing to one. He was singing to a host of women. He was singing to one. And you got to understand the spiritual aspect of it. It's getting you out of this women's wives. It's taking you out of there. What Solomon was saying. The way he was dedicating those words, he was talking to one. Now, was he talking in a sense of wives? No. But he's letting you know there's only one, y'all. That's the way the Father really created. It's only one. But what the men today have done, they have went in here. They have mastered this book and other books in one thing, in flesh. They didn't know. They didn't know there was a spiritual side. And that's the side that the Ruach HaKodesh come to teach and put in order. See, they didn't know that. They thought they can get in this book. And like I told y'all, in the year 2023, they gonna do away. The Hebrew Israelites, they gonna do away with this book. They already cut out Torah. They didn't cut out Paul. They didn't cut out all kind of things. They didn't went in there and said, oh, that couldn't be. That ain't right. That ain't right. But one thing it is today. Today is early in the it's afternoon now, almost afternoon, but it's early. But guess what? We are in the last hour in Ohio. We're running up on minutes. And they still playing the same games they've been playing before they even got over to this land for the last 400 years. They still playing that pagan, not the pagan, that idol god that they serve, which is man. They idoling man as a god. They looking up to him. They're looking high, putting them on pedestals, putting them to be nothing. But what he's doing is he's got them looking at him high, and he have deceived them by great numbers. And YAHWEH has placed the spirit of guilt. That's why people can go out and pay people to challenge them. Pay people to come join me. Help me prove this point. Righteous don't need to be proved, baby. The light don't need to any other darkness to help it to be the light. The light is the light. Righteous is righteous. Just is just. See, they don't need to somebody on their left and their right to prove that it is righteous. The light don't need someone on its left and its right and in the back to prove that it is the light. The light is the light. And righteous is righteous. Without nobody on either side, righteous is going to be righteous. And the light going to shine to be light and bright. It don't need flesh to make it righteous. It don't need flesh to make it just. It don't need flesh to make the light shine. Hallelujah. It is what he said that it is. So when men run in this book, and this is what they do. They grab this book and they say, come, prove to me through this book. Come, show me that this book. And to me, that's the less of the less. And to me, there are billions of weak men that will follow that idol God because they're telling them, here it is. It is in here. It is in here. The word that proceed out of the mouth of man is in here. And if man is his own worstest enemy, you have to wait for something to come that can override him. And that is the Ruach HaKodesh. And when the Ruach come, it's coming to teach you all things, reveal things to you, and show you things to come. It is called the one that Yeshua said, in the time shall come when the true worshipers shall worship you in an area, not of a book, but in spirit and in truth. Why? Because they are students of the Most High YAHWEH that has been selected from heaven to not be fooled by the flesh of man on earth. It's nothing in this book that a man nor a woman can cause to challenge spirit and truth and the light. This book cannot come up on rebuke, or challenge spirit and truth. It cannot challenge the light. This book speaks that which proceed out of the mouth of man. Yeshua said, as the Son of Man on the mountain, it is written that man don't live on bread alone, but every word that proceed out of the mouth of Yah. You can get in this book and you can pull out verses that Yah said, Yah said, Yah said, Yah said, Yeshua said, Yeshua said, Yeshua said. Those words can be rightly divided from what proceed out of the mouth of man. But what these men that's loaded with polygamy did, they went into this book, took out what man did in the flesh, what man said in the flesh, and they brought it to life and said, we too shall do what they did in their flesh. We desire to do that and get that pleasure as well. That's going to make us kings, leaders, and rulers. When we know we have put this female up under our feet, when the time was perfect in YAHWEH's creation, he called us them and not him. And see, that's where they messed up. They lost their way out of the perfect will that was given to us from the beginning before sin walked in. They done away with that. They don't want that in here. They don't want that, because that shows them that they've been wrong always since Genesis 1. They know they've been wrong. Genesis 1, 26 and 27 and 28, verses 26, 27, 28. They've been wrong. So they ain't going to bring that out. Because what they didn't understand was when the sin hit, anything could happen that was not righteous and was not pleasing to Yah. That's why you got Cain killing Abel. So instant. These was boys killing. And on and on and on. And all these men taking many women, having children, taking many women as they please, and selling off, sex trafficking their daughters. You see? Even if their own family members wanted to marry their own cousin, they will still sell them off. As long as you give me something. You get a man some money, you give them some wealth. Oh yes, here go my daughter. You see how crooked that? What happened to Genesis? Chapter 1, verse 27, 28. Them, not just him, them I created, Deborah, to work this earth. You never found them working the earth, even to today. Because man has trained men, as time passed, to put women so far under their feet. Now, this wasn't Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Solomon, and David. No, they didn't do that. It's the men that the Father today and yesterday said, stiff-necked, rebellion, and disobedient. See, they don't understand that. Those, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all of them weren't called what you are called today. Stiff-necked, rebellion, and disobedient children from your forefather. So what forefathers are they talking about? Let's go back to what I'm saying. They took out of this book the things of the flesh of David, the things of the flesh of Abraham, the things of the flesh of Moses, the things of the flesh of Jacob, and they made it legal to perform it in their flesh. And the flesh is the worstest enemy. So therefore, you can't go in here in a book and take out what the flesh of man has done and turn it into the just will and the righteous will of the Father. It would have to go in the unrighteous, the permissive will, the unjust. It cannot, the things that man do in his flesh cannot be listed as the righteous will of Yah when it bring only pleasure to the flesh of man. Woo! I'm in trouble. I know I'm in trouble. Nothing a man does in his flesh and the desire of his pleasures, his passion, his lust, and his desire cannot not touch the spiritual realm of Yah. Never can it, never will it. So that's why the prophetess in the wilderness can tell you we're slamming the door on polygamy. And if you have practiced it and you're in it, it is a time of repentance. Bring it to the forefront in truth of spirit. 99 point trillion ain't gonna be able to do that. A man can't get rid of his porno. A man can't get rid of his drugs, his alcohol. He can't get rid of his sexual behavior. And I'm going to explain something to you all. He can't get rid of his desire for his flesh pleasure. He can't get rid of those things. And another thing that's very powerful, I'm going to tell you men, that's really powerful. It is hard to get rid of that submissive will you think that you have stored within your mindset. Because you have to understand, for somebody to be submissive under you in the way that you trying to orchestrate that the Father created it, it's very powerful. Because if the Father say you are your own worst enemy, then what makes you think others have to be submissive to you and you are your own worst enemy? You see what I'm saying? You are your own. You build up hatred. You build up monsters within that household. And that's it. That's it. And that's what you saw out of all these polygamies. Polygamy, I don't think they called it that back then. All these many wives by these men that were called by, branded by the highest namesake. Chaos in all their family. even in Jacob's, especially in Jacob's. Chaos, even to today. This is what you're seeing. You mean Ahiah, you knew that Jacob's gonna, Israel and tribe of Judah was coming out of Jacob. You knew they was gonna be stiff-necked, rebellion, and disobedient. You see, they've been murderers. You see, they've been robbers. They've been stealers. They've been against you, and you see all this, Father Yah. But they making it look so pretty. They making themselves look so pretty as the flesh. They don't see in the spiritual a whole overall that you have disappointed the Creator himself. They can't even see that. That's just like polygamy. They can't see polygamy is not the righteous will of the Father. It is the unrighteous. They can't see that. Just as Israel and Judah can't see how, especially Judah, how he got the level of perpetual hate that matches the heathens and Gentiles. Judah has the same thing among their men. Judah has homosexual like the days of Lot amongst their men. They can't even see it. They have murderer at the highest level amongst their men in the tribe of Judah, and they can't see it. You see what I'm saying? These are things they cannot see because the Father said, I haven't given them that eye, Deborah. Their body is darkness. It's not light. You see what I'm saying? That's why they can see polygamy and have seen it from times on. And in this land of their captivity, he said, Deborah, they can't see. I said they're going to be destroyed in Deuteronomy 28, the end game. They now one of these Hebrew Israelite men can bring up the study on Deuteronomy 28 end game. They can't do that, Deborah, because it's too much falls in the light. They don't want that. They want to go into what David and Solomon and Jacob and them was doing with their flesh when it came down to having many wives. So we know that polygamy has no detachment to spirit. Because you look at each one of those that had many wives, look how wicked and evil the whole household was. Look at it. All those women that was trying to lay with Jacob, they didn't have nothing but wicked and evil, fighting one another to have another child by him. That's not of Yah. Leah going in, dressing up to be something that she should not have been because Jacob was drunk. Why did that come to play? You get what I'm saying? Ahiah didn't stop Cain from killing Abel. What's the deal, y'all? Ahiah didn't stop Eve and Adam from going in the middle of the tree of knowledge and good and evil. Wait a minute, Father, y'all, what's going on here? What's going on? Deborah, they don't understand. Their flesh is their worstest enemy. And they are also my worstest enemy. Okay, now let's go there. And they thinking that they're going to serve this most high Ahiah in the midst of their flesh ways. You can. You can. You're your own worst enemy. Until you have been indulged with the Holy Spirit, you still your own worst enemy. So in your eyes, everything is good. You got to be able to see through the eye of Ahiah's light in you. And when you see that, then you understand that. Now here in Genesis chapter 2 and 24, we have, let's read. Genesis chapter 2 and verse 24. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife. So here it is, a man, he's leaving his birth mother and father, the one who brought him forth. And Ahiah said, I want you to cleave to her. 99 trillion of men won't accept that. They won't accept the fact that he telling the man to like detach yourself to her. They don't like that word. The reason why they don't like it is because it also interfered with him being a ruler. You see, they feel kind of a second thought when they see, wait a minute, I'm running and detaching myself to her and her not to me. I'm supposed to be the head. I'm supposed to be the ruler. I'm supposed to be the leader. Why I'm seeking her and detaching myself to her. You all don't understand. During this time is what you call the perfect will of my Father. And I want to shut every last one of y'all tails down. In the beginning, when he created everything, he placed the trees in the garden. He designed the rivers, and all of that was his perfect will. That was his perfect will. What made it perfect? Adam and Eve were sinless. They was perfect. And everything that was present was perfectly orchestrated and put before them. Guess what? The tree of knowledge of good and evil was perfectly set there. Perfectly set there to be the tree of evil. Perfectly set there. So the Father wants you to let you know, I rule this. I rumble this. I created this. I know the ins and out, the ups and downs of this. I created it in my perfect will. And don't think he didn't know he had the tree of knowledge of good and evil. He perfectly put it there. Okay? So these were his perfect will. So for us to turn around and degrade his perfect will and said it wasn't no perfect will, all of it was his perfect will, use a lie from the pit of hell. All of it was his will. But he said, I am the potter of the clay. I call one to honor and one to dishonor. You better recognize how you never set y'all tails down and told you what took place before the foundation of the world. But from Genesis to Revelation, you hear predestined, ordained, foreknew, before the foundation of the world. That's letting you know that this thing didn't start on the earth, baby. This thing started in the heavens. So stand y'all nasty tails that's loaded in your flesh down. Polygamy is of the flesh. It's of the desire and pleasure and lust of the flesh. And just because if they started in Genesis all the way to Revelation, it still does not fall under the righteous will nor the just will of the Father. It falls under the pleasure of the flesh of man. None of polygamy bring glory to my Father. Praise the mighty Yah. What does polygamy bring glory to my Father? None of it does. Let me tell you and shoot you in and shoot you out. When we got down to the Messiah, whoo, Father Yah. Father Yah, thank you, Father Yah. It's time to slam the door on polygamy. I don't even have to ever teach this again the way the Father is giving to me now. What he's saying to my spirit now, he said, Deborah, even when it came down to Yeshua HaMashiach coming on the scene, it was never used out of the flesh of man. The reason why Yeshua didn't come on the scene and practice polygamy and talked about polygamy, he said, let me tell y'all something. I come to fulfill righteousness, just, holy. Heavens has come to the earth. And we ain't come to play in the flesh of man. So if you want to talk about the prophets, it's on you. You want to talk about the laws, it's on you. But I come to fulfill my Father's word. Something men didn't never do. Even to today. A carbon copy. So this is what the Father is saying. As they have walked in the flesh of those that were looked at as men of Yah, they never mastered the spiritual mission of those men. They only mastered the part of those men that allowed them to fulfill their lusts and their desires and their pleasures, which is having wives. They fulfill their lust on the earth to the utmost, but never fulfill any spiritual mission that David and all of them portrayed. So he said, come on down to the Messiah, Deborah. Take him there. Okay, here we go. Now here come the Messiah, born of a woman. Joseph, there go Joseph. Joseph come from the bloodline all the way to David. But did Joseph's bloodline create my Messiah? No, it didn't. See how deep that is? Their bloodline did not create the flesh of Yeshua. Their bloodline did not create, hallelujah, the flesh of Yeshua. What was Yeshua called? The Son of Man. But Joseph, sperm, hallelujah, did not create Yeshua. Why? Because Yeshua came down as a mission, okay, to be the Son of Man so that he can be sacrificed for the sins of the flesh of men. So he came down in the flesh, not needing, hallelujah, Joseph flesh to make him the Son of Man. Okay, let me hear what the Father want me to say to you. He say, so right then it shows you that I am not a part of the flesh of man. Yeshua was the flesh of man. Your step down with all power as the flesh, as the Son of Yah. And he connected the Son of Man with the Son of Yah to work the will of the Father himself. So he wants me to know, let you all know, even when it came down to the Messiah, he separated the flesh of Yeshua from the flesh of Joseph all the way down to David. That's why the Father wanted me to tell you, Yeshua could never have mimicked the flesh of your forefathers from David on down to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yeshua couldn't mimic it. Why? Because he wasn't the flesh ways of your forefather. Shut this polygamy down. We're going to shut the door on it. So when the Father had already, before the foundation of the world, chosen the angel, and his name was Yeshua, to come down to represent the flesh of man. But he said, hold up, Deborah, let them know. The Son of Man came down born of a woman in the flesh, was not tainted with the flesh of man. Why, Father? Why? Come on with it, Father. Why wasn't the Messiah, Yeshua? Why wasn't Yeshua, the Son of Man, tainted by Joseph's sperm, by Joseph's blood, by Joseph's flesh, all the way to David? Because they ways of sin and evil and iniquity rest in them. But Yeshua, the Son of Man, I send down, sinless, born of a woman, and never having the desires of a flesh of a nasty man. Take him there, Deborah, take him. Now let me take y'all where you ain't been before. And you're never going to get there because you've went out into the far ocean with all these men. And they got y'all way out there. You can't see no light. You can't even see dry land. Let me get you there. Now he's saying, tell them. So here come Yeshua, born of a woman without sin. Sin didn't have no victory over him because he wasn't born of the flesh of David, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He wasn't born they flesh, so he knew no sin. Hallelujah. That's why, Deborah, tell him he wasn't born of the seed of Joseph, but he was born through David all the way down as a spiritual bloodline. What do you mean? See, people didn't know. Yeshua came as the Son of Man. Okay? He came down as born as out of a woman's womb. I thank the Father for that because even out of a woman's womb gave him a little of the woman's blood. Hallelujah. But what came? Then here he come as the Son of Yah. Now see, look at Mary. Wasn't the bloodline of David, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. See, y'all didn't know that, did you? Mary wasn't that bloodline. But Yeshua came down as the Son of Man born of a woman. So they letting you know he came down flesh. Well, who was his blood? Who was his bloodline in the flesh? It wasn't Joseph, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, David. It wasn't them. But why was you connecting, Father Yah, David on down to the Messiah? Because they were the one that were branded for my name's sake. The spiritual bloodline came down. The spiritual bloodline came down, y'all. The spiritual bloodline came all the way down to Joseph. And that same bloodline, spiritual, Deborah, not flesh. Yeshua wasn't the flesh of Joseph, but he was the bloodline of Joseph. The same bloodline Joseph had, which was belief, righteous, faith, and fear that were branded in them, was of the Son of Yah. Not the Son of Yah. Yeah, the Son of Yah. Now what happened? Here go Yeshua. Why did the Father separate the bloodline of Joseph from Yeshua? Because those sins of the flesh reign all the way down to Joseph. Sin. Yeshua had to be born of a woman and a man without the sin. So he picked him a woman to let that baby come through. And let that woman nourish this baby with her bloodline and the bloodline in which YAHWEH has created him to be a man of flesh. You see that? See, they don't see that. They don't understand that. Because they so busy putting woman under their feet and they don't understand. In the heavens, you're going to find out who woman was all this time. And it's ain't not going to be a male and a female thing in YAHWEH. It's going to be a them and a him and not a her and a we and a him. No, it's going to be YAHWEH and them. So what man is portraying on the earth, the Father had let it loose when sin came on the earth. He let you do whatever you want. Polygamy, molesting these little girls, having these little girls before they come on a cycle. That's what happened in Genesis 6 that made him end the world. And we're going to get to there. And I'm hoping I'm going to be able to conquer it in teaching it. I went a little bit too far already. But let me explain something. So the Father wants you to know why these men running around here thinking that we having children multiplying for the Father. You ain't doing nothing for the Father. You getting your thing on. And you're multiplying monsters, creatures, with your bad habit, your a hatred heart, your perpetual heart, your bad habit, your darkness that's on the top of your head all the way down to the bottom of your feet, and you're creating monsters. You ain't creating nothing for the Most High YAHWEH. That's a lie from the pit of hell, because YAHWEH created the Son of Man without any bloodline of a man. Praise the mighty Yah. That should tell the whole world something. And let me get to it. The reason why Yeshua HaMashiach, let's leave with Yeshua, the Son of Man, born of a woman. So he was born in the flesh. That woman birthed that child, and he was a man born in the flesh. Okay? It didn't have no detachment to David's flesh bloodline, Abraham flesh bloodline, Jacob's flesh bloodline, Isaac flesh bloodline, Solomon flesh bloodline, or no one. This child was born not of their flesh. Why? Because their flesh was loaded with sin. Yeshua couldn't take on their sin and be able to die with us, for us. He couldn't sin just like them and then take on all sin. So the way YAHWEH orchestrated is, I'm going to take this man, put him in a woman's womb, bring him up out of the flesh, born of a flesh, separate from the flesh of all of those that came down from David on down. Now, the mystery, it ain't the mystery that was not revealed to you all was that they came down the spiritual bloodline. You know, the one I told you that David and them had was branded with, that they came down from heaven, branded for a highest namesake. When that's what came on down to Joseph to bring the Messiah in like unto them. Why you say that? Here you stand with a man born of a woman, flesh. His name was Yeshua. He come to sacrifice his life for the flesh of man's sin. See, he can't sacrifice his life for the spirit of man. He only come to sacrifice the flesh of man. You see the worth of who he is? To sacrifice on the cross all your nasty, stinky, rotten sin that you continue today to conduct. Even when you was on the land of your milk and honey, the wealthiest land on the face of the earth, you was over there killing one another and doing all type of sexual things over in that land. Yo, Father explained it to you. Through the Ruach HaKodesh, it show you all that in the Bible, in this book. It show you, it leads you to it, and then he revealed it to you in the spirit. And you be like, you see? So y'all stuck on stupid. Y'all gonna die on stupid. Now, the bloodline, this has got to do with slamming the door down on polygamy. I'm gonna slam that door on polygamy. Okay, so here it is. He created, the Father put in Mary a seed of a fleshly man to be produced in her. Okay, now this wasn't the seed of a sperm of Joseph. Ahia didn't need no nasty sperm of Joseph, Jacob, Abraham, Isaac. See how y'all got him bent up and bent down? He don't need your nasty tails to represent him when there's no spirit and truth, no light in you, and he don't rest in you. Why do he need you? That's why he said you got silly women ladder with sin. Why they ladder with sin? Because they fall in the flesh of a man and chose the flesh of a man, the will of a man, the desire of a man, the pleasure of a man, the ideal of a man, a wisdom of a man, a knowledge of a man, an understanding of a man, and they have forsaken that which they cannot see, but yet have to have a heart to believe. They've forsaken the Father for a rotten, no good, drunken, loudmouth men. Now let me take you back where I need to go. Here go Joseph. Joseph over here, Mary right here, holding the flesh of a man in her womb. You know that flesh of a man had to be holy because it had no sin. It was orchestrated to come down with no sin. How could you separate Yeshua's sin from Joseph's sin, his father? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and them sin. How could you separate it? Don't give them the blood. Don't let Yeshua come down with a bloodline of their flesh. That's how you like your forefathers. Stiff-necked rebellion and disobedient like your forefathers is because you came down the bloodline of your forefathers. That's why. But Yeshua came down the bloodline of holy. No man is detached to Yeshua's. No man in the flesh is detached to Yeshua. So he's coming down in the womb of a woman with no bloodline of the flesh of a man. Woo-wee! Meaning a man's sperm didn't make Yeshua. So what happens now? Tell him, go on, get it over, Deborah, so we can get to this here. Okay, what happens now? The reason why Joseph is standing there is for only one reason. And that's why you don't hear very, very much of Joseph, because the Father never wanted us to really expound on them in the flesh. But what men do? They bring the whole thing and say this is a man world, and everything comes down that flesh of a man. But the Father says, stand down, clowns. Stand all the way down. Yeshua, the Messiah, did not come down from the bloodline of a flesh man. He was embedded in the woman. any blood transferred through this man, it was from a woman to the Messiah, Yeshua. That's it. It was her blood and his blood. And his blood was holy. It didn't have Joseph, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. No, sir. So this is how the Father is sitting here showing you how y'all been clowning all these thousands of years. Here go this man over here. Ahiah saw fit that I'm going to put him in the womb of a woman. And I'm going to let her nourish him. But he don't have nothing of the flesh of a man. That just shows you how far David, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were in the flesh, pleasing and pleasant and representing the Father. To where when he wanted his Messiah to come down, he didn't want the Messiah to have none of their bloodline because he was loaded with sin. And you all went into this book, took their sinful things they did in their flesh for pleasures, for enjoyment, for want, and for lust. And you all made it a separate law and have taught people for thousands of years that it is righteous and it is sinful and it is unrighteous. Now, let's go there. Now, the Father said for you all to understand this. When you speak of Joseph, Joseph is the representation of David on down, all the way down in Matthew's chapter 1, that whole chapter, showing you everybody that came down with the seed. The seed of what? Righteous, belief, faith, and fear branded in them, all the way down to Joseph. And what happened? Then here this flesh, which is Yeshua. The Father said, and I tell you what, Deborah, I'm coming. And then here come Ahiah himself as the son of Yah. Ahiah himself as the son of Yah to join in with the Son of Man to do his mission that was orchestrated before the foundation of the world. That's why the lamb was slaughtered before the foundation of the world. So here it is. Yeshua coming in the flesh of a man. Being the flesh of a man is letting you know he was born of a woman. Hallelujah. He had nothing connected to Joseph all the way up to David. None of them. He just came down the spiritual bloodline to Joseph. Joseph all the way back up to David, Abraham, Isaac was a spiritual bloodline. That's why we can't chase polygamy. It is a flesh bloodline. It is the desire and the pleasure of a man's flesh. The desire of a pleasure and the want of a man's flesh. All the way up to David, all the way down to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and many more, all the way down to Joseph. The flesh of a man was the desire and the pleasure of their flesh. So what did he do? He took out of what they had already, which was him, righteousness, belief, faith, and fear, which were branded in David all the way down to the Messiah, which is the Son of Yah. The Son of Yah came into the Son of Man and worked the mission of the Father. You see? So it had no detachment to this is a man's world. And when it says this is a man's world, it's letting you know. Then Satan, he said, Satan come to deceive what? The whole world. So who do he have to deceive first? This is a man's world. You're right. He deceived the men. Here it is, the year 2023. And they are more ignorant. And I can't say ignorant because he said that's too simple, not knowing. Heaven says already orchestrated what they gonna know and what they not gonna know. Who's on the light and who's on the dark. Heaven says already orchestrated all of that. They just down here clowning. Seeing who they can deceive to believe that these things are righteous. So you see where polygamy is not righteous. Because when he made the Son of Man, he made him holy and placed him, which is Yeshua, into a woman without sin. He kept him from the sperm of Joseph. He kept him from the sperm of David, Abraham, Isaac. He kept them from the flesh of David, Abraham, Isaac. Yeshua had to come down as a man, born of a woman, without sin. And what's the difference from Joseph all the way to David? They sinned. And then man took their sin and mimicked it and called it righteous. All because they didn't understand that was never the intent for you to become what they had did in their flesh, but to see who they were walking as in the spirit. And you saw it not. And you took on the ways of their flesh, the pleasures of their flesh. And he said, you never looked at the fact that it never brought peace, joy, happiness, unity, togetherness. And now one of those polygamy in marriage, y'all won't teach it, y'all won't preach it, y'all won't expound on it, because you all looking at the lust, the desire, the submitting, and the want in your flesh. Praise the mighty Yah. That's how Yeshua came born. And as a man, not having the sperm, the flesh desires of David and them and Abraham and Isaac. He didn't have those. Why? Because a higher placed him in holy as the Son of Man to represent only the mission to die for all of their sins. David, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He died for all of their sins. Man come back and got the book and want to raise their sin and make it righteous. Not understand anything you do in the flesh is of the flesh. Everything you do is of the spirit is of the spirit. You cannot make, let me take this here off of here. You cannot make the things in your flesh the righteous will of the Father. You cannot make the things of your flesh okay. Because if that was the case, then Yeshua could have came down as the seed of Joseph and done the same thing that you all have done. But he didn't want that. Yeshua had to come down to cover all the sins of David, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's the purpose of him coming. It wasn't for the people that was living. It was for the people that had died. So all those sins that you all went in this book to wipe up, all those sins and wicked and fleshly things and fleshly desires, you all went to wipe up. You all went to mimic. Oh, David had it. Jacob had them. All those sins, Yeshua came to wipe them away. He came to wipe all of David, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and mine and your sins away. And we decide to sit and keep going back to find David, Abraham, Isaac's sin and make it righteous in the eyes of the flesh of a man. You can do it. We can do it. It's okay for us to do it. He didn't say we couldn't. Yeshua said, I come as a sinful, a sinless man to wipe away all your sin. And according for me to come down to wipe away and die for all your sin, I got to be sinless. I can't be born of David, Abraham, Isaac. So I did not come down their flesh bloodline. I came down the spiritual bloodline. And how did I come down the spiritual bloodline? The sons of Yah. The son of Yah. That's how they came down the spiritual bloodline, the son of Yah. Through righteous faith, belief, and fear. The brand of Yah that was in Yeshua that made him Hamashiach, the power of the Father's right hand. So all this time, you all are teaching these people that this is just and this is righteous. Let me tell you something. The Father wants you to know. Don't mess with his spirit and truth and those he has orchestrated to walk in the light. If you want to walk in the darkness, I'm going to count you as guilty for many others that you have trained and manipulate that the darkness is what you walk in. The favor of your flesh and the desire and the want of your flesh. He turned around and said, her body don't belong to her. It belongs to her husband. His body don't belong to him. It belongs to her. Man decide to say her body belongs to him and their body belongs to him too. The whole world, earth is out of order. What makes them out of order? Let's go there. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, I hope I don't get cut off, but if I do, I will boot up and put the second part. Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Be careful, y'all. You know what? Let me tell you, anything in you has to be able to embrace that and salute that as righteous. Perfect will of the Father. That's how he orchestrated it. For a man and a woman, a man to leave his mother and father, not a woman to leave hers. Because she's supposed to have what he's going to need once he leaves his mother and father. You see how important it is for a woman? And just because man went into changing Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, 28, and 29, and changed it to him instead of them, does not mean that it is just. When sin hit the scene, it took away all Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 away. Took it away. That's why no man and no woman can comprehend Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2 in a spiritual realm. Because it has been taken from them in the spiritual realm. Only those that are in the light and in spirit and truth can comprehend it. Other people, they can't. So they're talking about billions of people cannot comprehend it. It can't be seen because they are walking in darkness. They don't have the light to see. And the light is through the eyes. And the eyes, if it's light, the whole body is light. You see? They can't see it. Okay? So in Genesis, he said, a man shall leave where he reside, and he shall cleave to a woman, his wife. You notice the Father when he said, it is not good that man shall be alone, and I shall make him a help meet for him. He was talking about meeting his will, you guys, not meeting his flesh. When is Yah making a man to meet his wife? His wife is to meet him for his lust, for his flesh, for his desires, for his want of his flesh. YAHWEH has never created anything on earth for the flesh of a man, nor for the flesh of a woman. He created all things for his will. For us to say that she was created for him and him not for her, you're lost without a cause. Because that counteract that him and her become one, so she has to be created for him and he has to be created for her for them to become one. See how they messed it up, y'all? I'm sorry. I am so sorry that man reject the perfect will of the Father in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. I'm sorry that sin was so heavy from that time on to where man got lost in the perfect will of the Father. The Father wasn't coming to clean you up. He sent the Messiah to complete it, to fulfill what Adam refused instant to fulfill. So he come to be a sinless man. Born of a woman. I love that, child. I love it. Born of a woman. Just imagine that baby in her womb. Even some of her blood had to enter into him. Not Joseph's blood, but hers. See, y'all, they missed it. They always missed it. They missed it Genesis 1 and 26. They never knew the power was us. The power was what the world called Jesus, not Christ. The power is Hamashiach. The power is the right hand and the stretched out arm of the Father. They missed it then. He said because they reject the perfect will in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. And that's where you see Yeshua come in saying, have y'all not read what was in the beginning? See, he's saying it, that they missed it, Deborah. So don't worry about it. Don't expound on it. Don't keep going at it. They can't get what YAHWEH don't give them. Okay. So in here in Genesis, he made them to be them. That was the perfect will that they worked as them. Because man has took the word rule and made it, put her under his feet. And And that's what he has done. He have sold their daughters and women and made them less of the less. Okay? To where they cannot come into one. It's always going to be he's the one. And she is under the feet. That is not the perfect will of the Father. That is the will of wicked and evil. Flesh is its worstest enemy. And that's what men have been. When you read Isaiah, every man, read Isaiah chapter 3 and verse 25. Okay? Then go back to Deuteronomy 28 and pick up where they refuse to inform you that you are going to be destroyed. Men, you will and you shall be destroyed. It's in Deuteronomy 28. The same book that y'all reject. The same curse that y'all reject and trying to prove to be wrong. Okay? Now, here in Genesis, it says, Genesis chapter 2 and verse 24. Here go man and here go woman. The Father said in his perfect will, Deborah, I created her here to be a helpmeet to meet what? The will of the lust of a man's? Come on now. I created woman to be the lust of the man, to fulfill his lust on the earth, his pleasure. Just stick it in and stick it out, and anything comes out of her birthing, it don't mean nothing. She got to take care of it. It's all on her. That's why the Father said from the beginning of the Bible to the end, man, you're supposed to do this, did. Teach your son about me. Show your son who I am. Show your son who I represent. They didn't do that. They were so busy trying to control this female, keeping her under their feet. And they conquering all kind of women and having pleasures for their flesh. Building, eating, glutton, wanting to be kings and leaders and rulers. And they have forsaken the order of the perfect will of Yah, which is found in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. He made man and woman. He said it is not good. So the Father letting you know, women, that it never been good in his eyes to see man alone. What made man good is when he brought woman. And when he brought woman in, then now it is good. And I want man to go cleave to woman because she has something that he needs. And they are to come into one. They are no longer two, but one. Deborah, tell them that was my perfect will. That is what Yeshua was saying in Matthew's. Have y'all not read from the beginning? That wasn't so. It ain't going to be as easy as giving your wife a decree and letting her do away with so you can go get another one and another one and another one. And each time you finish going in after they's a virgin, you go into them, they no longer a virgin. And when you leave them, they stuck out there with your child and considered trash, harlots, all kind of women low because you done went in, got your pleasure and you gone. Yeshua told them from the beginning, that's not how Ahia orchestrated. He orchestrated that a man is not good. It ain't good for a man to be alone. He needs this here helpmate, or else he's not good. She's coming to work as them. Genesis chapter 1, verse 27 and 28. Them, not him. That's not the perfect will of Yah, but that's how they created it. That's why the world is out of order since the book of Genesis. Chapter 3, since sin hit. Okay, that's how out of order it is. And it's all out of the order because of the mindset of a man. Not the mindset of a woman. The mindset of a man has taken on the whole world out of order since the Garden of Eden. Now watch this here. And then he said they become one. What would be the perfect of a creator saying that a man and a woman should become one? Even though they are two, what's the one? One meaning when he look at them, he don't see it as him. He don't see it as her. He sees them together as one. Them working one together as one. Them bringing forth babies as one. So when these men get this wife and they become one, this is the order of the perfect will that Ahia say you cannot divorce. Anything that I have joined together in my order, let no man put you as under. I join this together. This is my perfect will, my perfect biblical marriage standards. Is that you become one, not two. So to become one, what am I saying? If I thought for 1 minute when I looked at man and I put him in the garden and I created all the animals and took it to him for him to name, and the whole earth was created. And then I said, it's not good that he should be alone. If I thought for 1 minute, Deborah, if I thought the Father or higher for 1 minute, if I thought, said the Father or higher, that man needed more than one woman, I would say I would create him wives to meet my will. And I would have said man shall have wives to meet, and they are to come into one unity to meet my will. The Father say man has lied on him since the beginning of time. He has not owned up since Genesis to the sin in which he committed in the garden. So that's why Yeshua had to come. Born of a woman. I love that. Born of a woman, but has the flesh of a man. Praise the mighty Yah. And ain't been touched and created from a sperm of a man. Has not. That's before the Son of Yah came in. I'm just showing you how deep it is in the flesh. The desire of man in the flesh is not of Yah. And they don't get it. Nobody don't need to prove to you that polygamy is righteous. Nobody don't need to prove to it that it's just. It's of the flesh. It's nothing of the flesh righteous. And it's desirable to the Father in the Spirit. So stop trying to make him like unto a man. He is not of a man. He is a spirit. And he has no dealing with you having sexual encounter to fulfill the lust of your flesh and the pleasure of your mind and the pleasure of your want. That's why all those polygamy marriage was chaotic, wicked, and evil. Even to today, the offsprings have never pleased a spiritual father. From the same polygamy marriage that you have set and created. So what makes you think yours gonna bring forth some light, some righteousness? And you full of hate for the woman that brought your nasty tales forth. So here it is, the Father say, Deborah, in my perfect will, I bring forth one. That's my perfect will for a marriage. That's why I said that ain't nobody can come in between a perfect marriage that I have joined together. Okay? Now, here it is in Genesis. We go to Matthew's chapter 19 and verse 4. Matthew's chapter 19 and verse 4. The Father wants you to know in Genesis as well. If all the work that Adam had before him, at any time he could have said, I will create you wives. The Father is showing you right there, polygamy is not the will of the Father. Because if it was, he would have designed it at the beginning. If it represent him in the spiritual walk, in the spiritual of what was righteous, he would have designed it at the beginning. Not only that, he would have brought the Messiah down many wives. If he thought that anything bringing forth many wives and man getting their pleasures, that's going to bring forth spiritual gifts and spiritual will of him, he would have done it. But he knew that it has no detachment to what is righteous. So you all go on and teach these people, these males and these females, polygamy is righteous. Use a lie from the pit of hell. Use a lie, and I don't care what demon and demonic spirits you can get along with yours to convince the world. You can pay $1 million and still not going to convince righteous that it is unrighteous. It's not going to convince just that it is unjust. It's not going to convince spirit and truth that you are righteous. And not going to convince the light that it is not the light that reign over the darkness. Use a lie from the pit of hell. Polygamy is the flesh desire and always was and is of man. Because even here in the book of Genesis, he never told you to put her under your feet. He said everything y'all did was supposed to be with her. And he called you all them. And you took on the word rule. And people don't understand rule is a beautiful thing. Oh, rule is a beautiful thing. Because if two is joined together into one, into this one, you're going to have, because you got two flesh into one, you're going to have different mindset. The Father is saying rule means that let him have the first and let him have the last. Having the first and the last don't mean it's his way. It's just saying that instead of having two different ways going in and two different ways going out, let him speak of it first and let him have the last word. Now, a man's last word don't mean it's his first word. It can be that, okay, he listened. He said, okay, when this is what it's going to be. That's beautiful to me. I don't know about y'all. I love it. As a little girl, I fantasize of something like that. Always. Father is my witness. I always fantasize my husband's going to rule over me. And I'm going to make sure he is without and lacking nothing that a woman can offer a man. You see what I'm saying? I always desire that. I never believed in women preaching. Never did. I never believed in women preaching. And when I said preaching, not teaching, but pastors, that's what I mean. I never believe a woman should lead any congregation. It should always be a man. It should always be a man. And it never should be he as the senior pastor and she as the second pastor. No, it has to be him and another man to be the second pastor, and she has to go under the deacons. No, she's not going to outride the pastor and the assistant pastor, which is a man, and the deacons. I have never been in agreement to that. That has been in my spirit since I was a young girl. Even when I would go to churches and see women sitting up there as a pastor and as assistant pastor, I never went for that. So I'm just showing you how you mold and shape me before the foundation of the world. I always desired to see men lead. But because men is in my desire, I see them and want them to lead, don't mean they're going to lead. Because if they don't follow my Father in the heavens direction, which is spirit and truth, which is in the light of righteous belief, faith, and fear, they are nothing to be looked at or to submit to. That's why you cannot go around here submitting to men that you are married to. If their spirit has not submitted, and you have seen what Sarah seen of Abraham, that caused her to call him Lord and Master. She saw him submit to the Father. She seen it with her own eyes. If I see that, sure, I would treat that man like a master. But when I see a man has a hatred, that's a perpetual hate, has a loud, ugly, negative spirit, loud mouth, drunken mouth against what Ahijah said called them, and he making it about him and him and him and him, that is not of Yah. That is of the flesh. So in Matthew chapter 19, verse 4, in chapter 19 of Matthew's verse 4, it reads, and he answered and said unto them, this is Yeshua in red now. This is Yeshua speaking. And he answered and said unto them, have you not read that he which made them, Genesis 1 and what? 26, 27, and 28. Him that made them. He's trying to get y'all to go back to the perfect will of the Father. Y'all don't want to go back there because y'all so busy listening to these nappy-headed men, these loud, drunken-mouth men in these academies, in these camps, in these church, in these houses, and in they so-called groups. Y'all so busy listening to what they saying, you can't hear the Spirit trying to teach you what spirit and truth. So the Spirit go on by itself. It lets you teach your flesh and teach everybody else's flesh, since they don't want to listen to what spirit and truth is. Okay. So he's saying, have you not read that he which made them. Now Yeshua stepping in on behalf of the Father. Yeshua is stepping in Matthew 19 and verse 4 on behalf of the Father. What the crap are y'all talking about? You can give a written decree and divorce your wife because Moses said it. Who said it? The flesh of a man. The flesh of a man said polygamy is okay, and you're following your tails right underneath it. How many times do you think them follow what Moses said? How many times do you think they act on what Moses said? Thousands of times. Why? Because Moses told them it was okay because their heart was evil and wicked. Continually. So Moses said, okay, you can go on and do that. Give her a written decree and let her go. Because you evil and wicked. It ain't going to ever follow righteous. See, evil and wicked of the flesh of a man is never going to follow righteous. It's going to call what they're doing righteous, just and okay with the Father. But that's how they get away with it. It's making it right in the eyes of those that they deceiving and misleading. But honestly, this lesson shut down big time polygamy in spirit and in truth. It shut it down. It brings the light on all that darkness. Follow this whole message and you will get the fullness that polygamy is not of Yah. Okay, so when you go here in Matthews, Yeshua is telling them, y'all some fools. That's what he said. Wait, you mean y'all ain't read for yourself? Have not you read? You mean you ain't read? You listen to Moses? And you haven't read that he which made them at the beginning, going back to Genesis 1 and 2, the perfect will of the Father. See how they tore up the perfect will? So I'm just not learning in the last year when the Father told me, Deborah, if they miss Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, they have missed the whole book. That's sad. That's real sad. Because he's saying if they didn't get those two, they don't know nothing, not even what's in Revelation. They can't speak spirit and truth, Deborah. You have to first get Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 and be able to master it in spirit and truth. You got to bring the light out of it. Okay. And the light in it is what Yeshua doing. Yeshua doing just that. Yeshua is telling them, wait a minute, you ain't read in the beginning. And that's what the Father is saying to you all. You all lost in darkness because you have not mastered the perfect will in the beginning of creation. Okay. And he said, at the beginning made them male and female. He's letting them know that they are detached to one another without a doubt. Yeah, man can say it's about us. We men, we leaders, we rulers, we kings, they got to be submissive. What did the Father say? The woman has to submit herself to her own husband, and a husband has to submit himself to his own wife. Own itself. Lets you know y'all own one another. And if she owns him and he owns her, then how in the heck that he owns her, but she don't own him because he can own her and them? How can that be? Why is that in the Father's perfect will? Then they go running. Oh, this is his perfect will. No, it ain't. Because if it all was his perfect will, why did he bring the Messiah out of holiness? It born of a woman's, born of the flesh, born as a flesh of a man out of a woman's womb and not of a man's sperm. Because he didn't want your nasty tail detached to holiness. Because you all was loaded with sin all the way down. So that's why you don't fall under the perfect will. And nothing that they did throughout time that please and pleasures their flesh is out of the Father's perfect will. It's the permissive will because sin has been permissive. He permissive. In the permissive will, he let Cain kill Abel. In the permissive will, he didn't say, Adam and Eve, don't y'all go near that. I told y'all not to go near it. In his permissive will, he allowed things to go the way it went. Because heaven already had orchestrated it. He ain't coming down here to change and play patty cake with y'all tails. Y'all want to go in the evil way? Go in the evil way. I don't care who you pay. I don't care what vomit you go up and lick up to try to join you to debate the word of Yah in spirit and truth and in the light. You can't win. You won't win. Because spirit and truth can't be debated. Because it stands side by side with righteousness. So you can't debate it. It stands alone. When it speaks, it is what it is. So in Matthew 19, I want y'all to study that so you can see where Yeshua is speaking on the Father's behalf in his creation in Genesis 1 and 2. Hello. And then in verse 5 of Matthew 19, it says, and said, for this cause. Now, see, that's power there, y'all. For this cause, for this whole reason, in Genesis, in Matthew, in Genesis, for this whole cause, male and female, he created them in the beginning. Shall a man leave his mother and his father to cleave, and shall cleave to his wife, and they two shall be one flesh. Now, what has happened? In Genesis, okay, chapter 2, in the perfect will of the Father, it got thrown away. It got thrown away, y'all. Genesis 1 and 2 got thrown away. Man has made this his world, and he done away with the perfect will of Yah, so that man won't find his way correct. And that's what the Father was saying. If they missed Genesis 1 and 2, they missed the whole book. And I have found that to be so true, because my discipline always came when our Father disciplined. He always run me back to Genesis. Always. When he chastised me, I said, oh, shoot. When he said we got to go to Genesis, I said, oh, I know I'm in trouble. I knew I was in trouble when he had to take me back to Genesis, because I knew that was, I'm stepping into a holy ground to chastise me, to discipline, to correct me. And I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, I want you to understand, in Genesis chapter 5, he's sitting here telling you, oh, this is what the Father is saying to me to tell you. He said, those that are in the light, understand this is Yeshua talking in Matthew 19. Yeshua is backing up the Father's perfect will of his word in Genesis 1 and 2. That's why Yeshua was saying, have you not read in the beginning? So Yeshua was taking us back to Genesis so we can understand. In the beginning, this is the way he created it. I don't give a rat's behind because Moses told you it was okay. Ahia created him and her to be one. Not him and her and three more. They are one in him from his eyesight. So all this 3 and 4 and 5, no. If he thought that Adam needed more wives, he would have given him that. But in his perfect will, did he only give him one woman, and that one woman, one man, and y'all going to become one in the eyes of Yah creation and perfect will. That's his perfect will. We know that man don't believe in walking nowhere near Ahia's perfect will. They believe in walking in their perfect flesh desire. Their perfect flesh desire. Okay. Now, here he's saying in verse 5, he wants you to know, if Ahia orchestrated in Genesis 1 and 2 his perfect will, and then here Yeshua come to nail what Ahia said in his perfect will, somebody's in trouble. Come on, let's go. In verse 5, Matthew chapter 19 and verse 5, and said, for this cause shall a man leave his mother and his father, and shall cling to his wife, and they two shall become one flesh. Yeshua nailing what the Father said. From when? The beginning. When was that beginning, Deborah? Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. Verse 6. Now we in Matthew chapter 19 and verse 6. Wherefore, they are no more two. Now this is Yeshua telling them. So what y'all doing? They're no more two. I'm breaking them down to one now. What happened? That man decided, she's not going to own my body. I'm going to own hers and many other wives. Man is saying, it says that a man must submitting himself to his wife. Likewise, a wife to her husband. Man said, I'm not submitting myself to you. You're going to be submissive to me under my feet. I'm going to be king, ruler, leader, and you're going to be under my feet like trash. And I'm going to get me other wives that's going to submit to me as well. And I'm going to be the ruler and the king. I'm going to be the leader. And all of y'all going to submit to me. That's out of the Father's righteous will. Out of his perfect will. And there you go. They out of the will. That's why the whole earth is out of order. When you go back and you start reading, you're going to see YAHWEH is coming for his elect. Then you have to read who are the elect. And you'll realize that you've been lied to all this time. Sitting back thinking Yah is coming for you. And nothing in you is righteous. You have lived your flesh desires, your flesh pleasures, your flesh will, and have not come to the light to anything. And have not walked in spirit and truth. And you thinking Yah coming for you? Okay, we're going to see about that. Okay, now in verse 6, it says, Matthew chapter 19 and verse 6, wherefore they are no more two, but one flesh. What therefore YAHWEH has joined together, let not man put as under. If YAHWEH say a man and a woman, a man to leave his wife, his mother and father, he's to cling to his wife. And furthermore, men are not supposed to even leave their household, their mother, father, until they have found them a wife. And they cleave to her, and then they become one. Okay? And Yeshua come to back YAHWEH up in that. Yeshua come to back him up. Watch this here. In Matthew's, Yeshua speaking it. And he said, they now let not man put as under. Don't let man come in between this one. Because if it's something I created, bringing man and woman together, and they become one, don't let man break this apart. And man has. Man has not only broke that apart, he has separate each other as two and not come as one. Because to come as one don't mean to come as others. You see what? So it wasn't nothing big about Abraham and them having many wives. They was falling under their flesh desire. You see? They was falling under their flesh. Still yet a world of sin. You can't take it and make it righteous. And if you can't make something righteous and fall under the spirit, it is what? The opposite of what righteous and spiritual is. You have to line it up with that. And to line it up with that, meaning you owning that thing. You owning it. Stop lying on Yah. He ain't got no part in that. He told you what you do in your flesh has nothing to do with him in the spirit. You can't even worship him in your flesh. So how is it your pleasures of your flesh, your lust of your flesh, and your desire of your flesh going to enhance him in the spirit? Come on, y'all. They sicker than sick. Okay. Now, I like where he said, and let no man put as under, because he's letting you know what I created. Man can't divide that. No matter what he go run tell y'all and teach you, you can have all these wives. You can have this. He said, you go right ahead. He's not going to eliminate the creation in his perfect will. And you're going to be judged by it. Okay. Now, when we get to Matthew's chapter 19, and let's go to verse 8. In Matthew's chapter 19, verse 8, it reads, he said unto them, Moses, because of the hardening of your heart, that means the wickedness of your flesh, hardening of your heart, that's the wickedness and evil of your flesh, suffered you to put away your wives. And it means wives, as many as they, not many, their wives that they were married to, they were putting them away. And they come before Yeshua to tempt him to see if he's going to allow them to do what Moses. They knew it was wrong. So if they knew it was right, they didn't have to tempt him. They knew it was wrong. Do y'all get it? Y'all don't. I know you don't. I know you don't have the eyes to see. I know you don't have the light. I know you don't have spirit and truth. But right here it says, Moses suffered you to put away your wives. But from the beginning, what beginning you talking about, Yeshua? Deborah, Genesis 1 and 2. From the beginning, it was not so. Here it is. You're one now. You can't just put her away. You see? So you see how the whole world then lived the life out of the order of YAHWEH's will. And they call it righteous. Because they done got away with it for thousands and thousands of years. Look at, we've been over here 14 years and we can't see light. We can't see righteous. We can't see nothing. All we see is what a man trying to tell us what we should be doing and how we should. Out of his flesh understanding, his flesh wisdom, his flesh knowledge. And his flesh is his own worst enemy. But yet we got him teaching us out of his flesh. Come on now, y'all. Talk to me. Now, I want you to see that Yeshua is telling them, because of your wickedness, your hardness of your heart, that means wicked and evil of your heart, Moses suffered you to put away your wives. That was because of even wicked. Why was they all coming to him, Yeshua, regarding this topic? They was coming to tempt him. What way were they trying to tempt him? They knew it was wrong. They was tempting him and seeing if he was going to say that which was wrong is right. That's what they was tempting. They was trying to get him to make right wrong, because Moses made it right to them by allowing them to get away with it. They wanted to see if Yeshua was going to agree. But what did Yeshua do? He went and followed his father. In the beginning, it was not so. And the beginning was Genesis 1 and Genesis chapter 2. I created them. And that's what in Matthew's chapter 19, verse 4, 5, and 6, and even 8, Yeshua was expounding on that to get them to understand. Ahaya always created him and her to be one. Them, as them working together in any and everything. And I thank the Father for that. Now, 1 trillion times 1 trillion would have never got that, what I just explained to you. That's what you call spirit and truth. And not one word out of an ugly mouth man can change it. You can't override it. Praise the mighty Yah. So when I end up in Ephesians, let's go to Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 31. In Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 31, let's go and see what it's saying. Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 31. For this cause shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. So the Father want me to say to you, it is not like the men come along today and turn his word according to match their flesh desire. He said, I have always left a light on. The Father said, I have always left a light on. You just couldn't adapt to the light. You love darkness too much. Because in Ephesians, it also said the same thing, bringing us to understand a man and a woman was to work with them. He didn't put one higher than the other and one lower than the other. That was the flesh of man. They're so wicked and evil that they put woman all under their feet and didn't understand the way Ahia saw her was to be you and her together in this as one. Them becoming one. And we took it and we lived the way man has wanted to live. And that's what you see in the world today. So when you see everything in the world today, this has nothing to do with what Adam and Eve did in the garden. This has to do, because now, let me tell you why it don't have nothing to do with Adam and Eve in the garden. Men will tell men that Eve sinned and Eve did this and Eve did that and Eve did this and Eve did that. Let's take this away. Ahia wiped away the world, rebooted back up. And who world was it? Satan and men. This is a man's world. It is Satan's world as well. And they work hand in hand. Only he that is elect of the Most High Ahia don't work hand in hand with Satan and men. They work for the Father in the light and in righteousness. Okay? I thank the Father for having a brand before the foundation of the world on his men and his women. That means if it was so, the world would fool them. But because they can't, because I branded them, then therefore you go on to fool the fools. Okay? Okay? And I like that in Ephesians because it tells you that again. It lets you know. Now, when we get to Ephesians chapter 32, it says, in Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 32, this is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ and the church. There's a mystery in that, you guys. There's a mystery is coming into one. Because YAHWEH has always wanted all of us that are elect and that are in Christ, everything from the beginning to the end, to be lining up in one. So therefore, if we follow sin and the flesh, then we follow the flesh in sin. If we follow the spirit, then we follow the spirit in spirit. That letting you know whose spirit are you, or who flesh do you serve. Okay, so I want to go now. Oh Father, I think I did a boo-boo. I did a boo-boo because this part is even deeper. In Genesis chapter 6, 1-5, I had an issue with my daughter. And it really wasn't an issue. It was something beautiful. I was dealing with the fact that I knew that she was like a whiz. I know she is. And she can go into situations and break it down within the blink of an eye. And I decided to call her to ask her to do something I never, ever, ever have asked her to. I wanted her to go into Genesis chapter 1, chapter 6, Genesis chapter 6, verse 6, chapter 6, verse 1-5. I wanted her to break that down to me. And when I said that, before I can say break down to me, she pulled her Bible, bam, there it was, just that quick. That's how she speed reads. She can read something and comprehend it at the blink of an eye. Okay. It's just a blink of an eye. That's how powerful the gift that the Father has given her. Okay. So in Genesis chapter 6, verse 1-5, I wanted her to expound on verse 4. I wanted her to tell me, what is it thou seest? That's how the Father deals with me. He'll say, Deborah, what is it thou seest? Reason why he said that to me is because he wants me to see the spiritual aspect, not so much as the flesh. And if I can see it in spirit, I will fully understand it in the flesh. So I wanted to take her a place. I knew that she couldn't go in the spirit, but I want to take her there in the flesh. I wanted to see her comprehension in the flesh. Let me tell you why I wanted her comprehension in the flesh. Because we have prophets, apostles, evangelists, teachers, pastors, mooring, seers, watchmen, teachers that's teaching this Genesis 6, chapter 6, verse 1-5 in all darkness. In all darkness. And I figured that if she can master in the natural, and I understand it in the natural and in the spirit, but if I can hear what the natural man sees this chapter as saying to be, and did you know she nailed it? She told me exactly what I was understanding in the world of yesterday and today has taken Genesis 6, chapter 1-5 out of order. I can see now why he said the whole earth is off course. It's out of balance. Because everything that he has left there for us to go by, we can't see it, even though it's plainly seen in our natural eyes. Because we have not allowed the Ruach HaKodesh to indulge himself in us and be our 100% time, 100% teacher. We have decided to come up in the teaching of everybody, the teaching of our own understanding, which he calls ever learning, never coming to the knowledge of truth. Spirit and truth. They'll never come to the knowledge of spirit and truth. That's why they will never find the narrow gate. It's because they stuck on stupid. They stuck on books. They stuck on books that's books and other books to be their teacher. So the Father say that is of the flesh. So let the flesh teach the flesh. But I come to be in them and live in them and be a teacher of all things. And what is that teacher of? Spirit and the truth. And what is that? Spirit and flesh. The Ruach HaKodesh come to teach you the both. That which stand therein. The both. See how such a blessing that is? That's a blessing on top of a blessing. Okay. So in Genesis chapter 6, my daughter nailed it. She was able to see what you all in the world sees. But guess what? She nailed it in righteous. She was able to read it like you all are reading it. But when it came down to her breaking it down, she was able to step in a little of the spiritual. She's saying that in Genesis chapter 6, verse 4, there are giants in the earth in those days and also after those days. I want you to understand there's no such thing as fallen angels. The giants weren't considered evil as you all are categorizing heaven, dropping giants down to be evil. That's just like how the heathens right now had us in captivity 40 years and in full denial that we went through anything. That's how deep Genesis chapter 6, verse 1 and 5 is for me. Because I see it in a spiritual light and I realize they have took it totally out of the light and placed it in the understanding of darkness. The Father was showing me here what is taking place today, Deborah, was prophesied. It would be like the days in Noah. Who prophesied that? Yeshua. He came to tell us, y'all wake up. Because when I come, y'all gonna be doing the same thing they were doing back in the days of Noah. Check it out. Check it out, y'all. Check it out. And what Yeshua was saying, y'all check that out. Because that'll give you a better outlook of what actually is going to be taking place in your day. Because 99 point trillion is going to be in full denial. And what he's talking about is what the Spirit of the Father, the Ruach HaKodesh has taught me. In Genesis chapter 1 and verse 5, the Father have taught me that this was what you will call what they're doing today, polygamy. This is what you're called when there's so many people running around here having sexual partners and practicing having females all over the place. Okay. This is what you're called wives, polygamy, as the man wants to name it and stand on high mountains regarding, not seeing that this lifestyle was a lifestyle that caused the Heavenly Father to end the world. Praise the mighty Yah. They are so blind to spirit and truth, they have no light in them to where they cannot see that the Father in the world, because men begin to practice having women in the way that they desire, in their pleasures, in their wants, and in their desires. He said it's going to be like that in the days, in the end days, like until Noah. What man did is they lied. Women have too, especially prophetess. They lied about Genesis chapter 6, verse 1 through 5. Just as the Father revealed to me years ago how they lied about Deuteronomy 28. The whole Hebrew Israelite, the tribe of Judah, has lied on him regarding Deuteronomy 28. And we focus on the end game. They lied and they still lying even to today, the year 2023. So why should Sister Deborah, as a prophetess in the wilderness, trust in the mouth of a loudmouth man that continue to lie to the people? Okay. And think if I have some heathens and Gentiles among me that I'm going to be this, or I got to get another Gentile or heathen to go along with me in this polygamy to make me look good, feel good, and act good and think good. The Father say, no, the curse of conscience, of guilt, conviction will ride heavy on you. And it never will leave you. Any man that take on polygamy as an act of the righteous will or sinless, the Father say the conscience going to eat you up. So if you come to this page, know that the conviction is already on you. Okay? So you ain't going to be able to wipe it up. No money on the earth. No money on the earth is going to heal that conviction. That guilt that's going to ride the individual that lives this polygamy life. So therefore, Sister Deborah has a GoFundMe page. Your best bet is to fund that page. Because that page will tell you after this message, that woman is a prophetess of the Most High. in the wilderness. That is building up your treasures on the earth to support spirit and truth and righteousness and the light of the Father on the earth. So go to the GoFundMe and you fund as much as the Father put on your heart too. Because Sister Deborah just slammed the door on polygamy for every man, woman, boy, and girl that think that this is the will of the Father. She has taken you deeper than deep. You can go get all the books in the world. You can go and get 1 trillion verses. It's not going to override spirit and truth. It's not going to override the light of righteousness. Okay, now here we are in Genesis, and I hurt my heart that Genesis has been lied on. Genesis chapter 6, the whole idea of him ending the world is because men decide to take this thing on of life about lust, sex, abomination, adultery, fornication, sex trafficking, children, messing with young women. And the Father saw all this in Genesis chapter 6. And he broke that thing out and he broke that thing in to his elects, that they may see what caused him to end it during the days of Noah. And look how deep it was. In Genesis chapter 6 and verse 5, and Ahiah saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth. He called it great in the earth. And that every, not one over here, maybe one over here, imagination of their thoughts, of their hearts were only evil continually. What is he meaning? Their whole flesh mind, their whole flesh heart, their whole flesh desire, their lust. All of it was wicked and evil continually. What brought upon that? You go back up to verse 1. He began to tell you fornication, adultery, lust, sex, messing with little girls, sex trafficking, selling women. All of this was going on to the point where those who was assigned to come to represent the Father, which were the sons of Yah, desire to see what man was doing with their daughters and that the daughters were fair. What was fair meaning? That they were young and innocent. That's one thing the Father wanted me to know in the spirit of truth. And that they were fair. And the men were selling their daughters to the sons of Yah and to other men. Not just the sons of Yah, but to other men. Because that's where the sons of Yah got off course and saw what the men, the daughters of men, what the men were doing with their daughters. They were having them themselves and selling them off. That's how out of order it got so instant out of Genesis when they went where it becomes about him. When you get to Genesis, that's why he wants to expound on. And men began to multiply. He's letting you know the ways and the mindset of men began to multiply in numbers. And they were having daughters to them. So they would take in their daughters. See, women weren't supposed to open their mouth. If you right now hear the voices of the cries of the world in the last 400 years, you hear more black men telling you how their black fathers, their forefathers, their black fathers and their fathers' fathers, their grandpa, their uncles, their brothers, their brother friend, molest them since they was 1, 2, 3, 4. Men will stand on a mountain and let you know men has messed us up. That we can't be the best we can be to a woman. See, a lot of things took place and a lot of them, they blame mama because mama wasn't able to come in between it because man had put woman here in Genesis, a place that Ahiah didn't call her to be. They took on the word rule and they put her here. That's wicked and evil. It was supposed to be them. So when mama see daddy messing with a son, she can have something to say. But because he put her under his feet and not as one, then therefore mama kept quiet. Mama got beaten when daddy drank. Mama got beaten when daddy was out whoring. Mama got beat when daddy was drinking. This is a living witness. I'm not a dead prophet, y'all. I'm a living prophetess. I can speak spirit and truth, which 99.1 trillion can. Okay. So therefore, this is what you see, the man's world. And if you were able to sit down with 1 billion men in one space, and you had a voice, that thing that can go out and say, how many men been molested by their fathers? You're going to have more than half. How many by their grandfathers? You're going to have more coming up. How many by their uncles and their brothers, their elder brothers? They'll start coming up. So men was destroyed way back. That's why you fell into Sodom and Gomorrah. It wasn't women at the door. It wasn't women. It was men and young men. In the book of Judge, when men came after the king of Judah, they come men at the door after men, young men and old men. It's in them, y'all. Why? Because they messed it up, the plan in the beginning. They messed the plan up. That's why the Father said it's not good that man should be alone. It's not good, y'all. It's not good. I got to make him something so he can become one. But what this man did, he put the one out of commission, which is the Father's will. They took one and put it out of commission and let the word rule overrides the one. Why is it a man shall rule over her cannot outride the one? Why is it? Because this creation was in the perfect will of the Father. It was perfect. It was set up from the floor of excellence as them becoming one. Rule cannot override that. Rule just actually mean he has the first say so and the last. That's it. It doesn't mean to put her under your feet. She's cattle to you. Sell her and her daughters. Beat her. Do her wrong. But that's what man did. So yes, it is your world. It's you and Satan. Y'all in it together. Praise the mighty Yah. Speak that truth, Deborah. Speak that spirit and truth. Speak it on them. Okay. So in Genesis, the Father want me to let you all know that you all have lied on him throughout times. And because Yeshua ascended and left, he let you know the Father was going to send something that's greater. And that was his Ruach HaKodesh. And I thank him today and yesterday for, because that's why I'm here today. Okay. I thank him for that because that overrides everything that proceed out of the mouth of man. Okay. It's of the flesh. That proceed out of the mouth of man is of the flesh. The Father bring spirit and truth and the light out of those that he has elect, while the flesh of man deceived many. A lot of things was going on in Genesis chapter 6 and 1 and verse 1 through 5. Ahiah had to wipe it away because even those that he had sent down as the son of Yah got connected with what man was down here on the earth doing to his daughters, selling them off big time to as many men as they please. So the sons of man said, oh, we want some of that too. But here, you pay for it. You up that money and it's yours. And the Father was saying he's not going to strive with the sons of Yah always. Meaning he's not going to turmoil and deal with them, begging them not to, because what? They flesh. And that's what polygamy is. It's flesh. The Father is saying right there that I'm going to let them be flesh, but I'm not going to strive with them because not only are they spirit, they flesh. Not only was David spirit, but he was flesh. Not only was Jacob spirit, he was flesh. Not only was Abraham spirit, he was flesh. He never intended for man to go into a book and mimic the flesh of man and make it spiritual or righteous or just. It is of the flesh of man, and it reigns under that which is of the flesh, evil heart, wicked heart, hardened heart, mind of the flesh, pleasures of the flesh, lust of the flesh, want of the flesh. That which is flesh, and that which is spirit. You cannot bring polygamy nowhere near that which is spirit. And call it anything near righteous. Call it anything near just. Okay? So, I'm going to bust every last one of y'all bubbles. When I was done with my daughter explained to me exactly the way I see it in spirit and truth. I couldn't get with when you pull up Google or you pull up different Bible verses trying to justify, or when you pull up Google and enter on the internet, it gives you fleshly definitions. It gives you that which please the flesh of many. Many people are talking on this Google and online. So you can't take what they said on the devil's platform or even on Google and make it righteous. You got to be led by the Holy Spirit and the Holy Spirit only, that if you are thinking that you're anywhere in the light, that you anywhere near spirit and truth, it has to come from the Spirit of Yah, not from books and all other surrounding missing books. You study this book and wait and tarry for the Ruach to come bring everything crooked out of this book, and he'll make it straight in you. Everything that's darkness in the book, he will turn around and build light in you from the book. But he has to come and give you this, not the flesh of man, because the flesh of man mimic the flesh of man. They take every verse out of here, out of the mouth of a man, and they try to master you and beat you down to believe it is the Spirit of Yah. And it is not. The mouth of man has to be separated from what proceed out of the mouth of Yah. If it says, and man said, or Paul said, and they said, you got to find the level ground, which is spirit and truth of the matter. You have to see what a higher said. That's how they got y'all. That's how they beat y'all at this book. That's why they want to challenge you in this book. Because they have mastered it in their flesh and the words of their flesh to be able to conquer you, destroy you. They mastered it in here. And this is how they beat you. They destroy you. They control you. They manipulate you. And the Father wants me to tell you, he told you your worstest enemy is your flesh. So if your worstest enemy is your flesh, how can your flesh dare be anything to anybody if it has not received the power on high to know spirit and truth and the light? You think those angels coming down to collect the elects out of your sanctuary, out of your temple, out of your house, your building, your church, out of your academy, and out of your church, your camp? No, baby. These people had spirit and truth on the front of them and in the back of them. And guess what? The angels are looking for the light. Because the light is the righteous one. And the righteous one don't follow the flesh of a man. They follow the lead of the spirit of the Ruach HaKodesh in all things. So it's easy for a man to tame another man from the book because men are weak like that. They never thought to look back and say, wait a minute, the Father never included in his perfect will them to be one. So all the men decided, we want to be kings, leaders, and rulers. We're going to go up against any and all of them. We're going to put women in their places. What you'll never find, even in your own book, in this book here, where Ahia told you to do that. He never told you to do that. It's never written. So what happens? Man becomes flesh, and flesh become the ruler of the darkness because he has no light in him. So all he can teach is darkness. And darkness teaches the flesh. Teaches the flesh how you can be a king. Teaches the flesh how you can be a ruler. Teaches the flesh you can be a leader. You're going to rule. You're going to have dominion. Put her under your feet. Tell her to keep silent. How can a man be so weak to that when the higher said he'll cause the rocks to cry out on his behalf? Praise the mighty Yah. How can a man be so less than a man to believe that if he can cause a donkey to speak, why would he shut up a woman? Come on now. These are the things that men never think of because they're following the pleasures of their flesh. Men has left their first seeds that Ahia has given them, which are talents. These first seeds are your ability to make you to be whatever you want to be. It's not the ones that you went following after because somebody said, here go, you're a virgin, get that one. It's a good for you. She'll do what you tell her. You can rule over here. See, a man don't need a weak woman to the point where she has no leadership within her, no strength as a woman, where she has to be so submitted to you right here. He said a woman must be submitted to her husband. And he said, likewise, husband, you have to be submissive to your wife. Ahia always did it as two becoming one in what he wanted us to be. Man came up and separated with Satan, separated so the world can be what it is today. Off the course, out of balance, in evil and wicked. Man did that. That's why Yeshua had to come. And when Yeshua had to come, he had to come not of the blood of a man, but Father gave him the blood of that woman. Praise the mighty Yah. See, the Father gave the Son of Man, born of a woman, to a woman. When he brought him and placed him in her womb, now he shares something with her. Why is it Joseph's blood wasn't detached to him? Because this child that's born of a woman needs to only be detached to her. Because him is loaded with sin. And I don't need a sperm of a man to bring forth the sacrifice of all sin to the earth. But I do need that woman. I need her to incubate him, to take care of him, to nourish him. Now you see how out of order man then got? To where they never thought the power of the Creator decided to only have the seed of a man and not the seed of a man's sperm, but the seed, not the seed, but the blood of a man put into a woman that don't have the blood of a man. Woo, Father Yah, you nailed that too deep. The Father had Yeshua created in the woman. You all, somebody out there, I want you to grab that message and I want you to swing that every way you can, because it's a message in there and the Father's putting it on my spirit. And I never thought of it like that. She had to transfer even some of her blood unto this unborn sacrifice. He didn't need David all the way down to Joseph bloodline. He didn't need their sperm, they fleshly bloodline. Too much sin. He wanted a woman to hold on to this baby for 9 months, bring it forth, nourish it, and give it what it wants, what it needs. Don't think that lady's blood didn't get to attach to that Son of Man. And once that Son of Man was in her, he was holy. Why? He was not any sin. He was holy. He was pure. No sin. So when men goes and put up Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and David, and Joseph, they got to bring them down because they were flesh. The only way you can put them up is in the spirit, where they were branded for the Father's name's sake. To what? To have the same